Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I have got one more video to share with you using the Spellbinders Rooting for You die set. This was the April stitched die set of the month from this year. And here I'm giving you a look at the leftover pieces, or the negative cuts, if you will, from everything I cut out to make all my little vegetables. And I'm going to use these to create some patterned card fronts. If you have followed me for any length of time, you know that I hate to throw things away. I feel like I want to get as much use out of all my crafting goodies that I can. So this is one way to, if you are able to create a pretty pattern, and a lot of times I don't plan this out ahead of time. It's just sort of the rows and lines that I use as I am strategically trying to get as much use out of my paper as I can. I'll look at them later and be like, oh, that's kind of pretty. You know, I'm sad to throw it away. So we're not going to throw it away. We're going to create some note cards. So I've got my Nina cards here working directly on my white card base. This purple piece I used for the radish. You can kind of tell that. If you know what it is looking at it, you can tell. Otherwise, it just sort of looks like this modern pattern. So I'd gone ahead here, added some glue to the back. I placed that down, but it was a little crooked. So we're going to rearrange it, try and get this as straight as I can on the front of my card base here. And I will just use that for another piece that's a little more solid. We'll pull in a whole new card base here. I'm going to change my strategy and work from the bottom up, trying to keep this as straight and centered as I can on my card base. And the nice thing about using that liquid glue is it gives you a minute to be able to rearrange, readjust things if you need to. So just pressing that down flat there, and we've got our first card ready to go. This light green, the die cuts that were used on it were for the top of our onion. So again, adding my art glitter glue, and I'm going to try to make sure I'm getting every little tiny V that dips in there. I want to make sure all of this is down nice and tight onto our card base. And then the way this is cut, we even have sort of leftover at the bottom, which will make a really perfect spot to place a sentiment if you'd like to. I left all of mine blank, both on the outside, the inside, no sentiment. I just thought this would make a really nice little note card set. So again, placing that down directly on the top of my card base, I'm just going to smooth everything out, check to make sure everything is down nice and tight, especially those skinny little pieces. And then I noticed that I have some that are lifting, so we're just going to add a little bit more glue under those so they don't tear as we're using the card or placing it in the envelope. For our third card, this is the top of our carrot. Now this was by far the most intricate of the die cuts. So pretty. I love the look of this leaf. And this one did give me a little bit of difficulty, but I'm going to take you through how I made it work. So those are a lot of little tiny pieces to try and get glue on. I'm doing the best that I can, trying to get into each little piece, but also not letting my glue dry on me as I'm doing that. So we're just going to dot, 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 dot all over. And this is larger than my card base, of course, but I wanted to give myself some leeway as I place down my card base. So I'm just going to pick a spot, place it down, make sure all that's down nice and tight. And then we're going to set that off to the side and let that fully dry before we trim it. Moving on to this darker green, these die cuts were for the leaves of our radish. So I'm just using my card base there off to the side to see how far up I want to place my glue. I was actually able to get two cards out of this one. I had one that has the strip at the bottom here, which is the one we're putting together. And then the top piece was enough to create a second card, which was full of those leaves, the whole pattern. I'm going to make sure that's down nice and tight. And then I will go ahead and trim off this side here. This was a little uneven. I don't know why I didn't just grab my trimmer earlier, but I didn't. I wanted to do it by hand. So you'll see I sort of go take a little bit off, and then I feel like I need a little bit more. I was trying to smooth it out with my bone folder, but just needed a little more trimmed off there. And I will often smooth down anything that I hand cut just to try and get a nice edge along the side of that. Now we'll pull in the trimmer. We'll trim off that excess on the side and the top. All right, we're going to go back to this lighter green, and I'm going to, again, take my trimmer and go around all four sides here. And here's where we really kind of encounter our trouble with this one. It's such a pretty pattern. However, because of the way it was glued and how intricate it is, we lost some portions of our leaves. So I'm going to set that off to the side, think about it, how I'm going to fix this, and we're just going to move on to the next one. I will often do that with things like this. I push it to the side and I will think on how I'm going to come up with a plan for this. So this purple is made from the inside of our radish leaves, the little, I'm not sure what you want to call those, but the center sections, the stem of the leaf. And I'm just playing around with this, deciding if I wanted it to be vertical or horizontal, if I wanted to have a little bit at the bottom for a sentiment like with the others. And then ultimately I decide that I wanted to have a full 3 rows of those branches on the front of the card. So again, using my card base just to see where I need to start and stop my glue. And I'm going to go ahead, add some glue to the back of this. Lots of little tiny dots again to try and make sure I'm catching all of those intricate details. And I'm moving really quick with this because those little dots of glue, the more they dry, the less time I have to arrange this on my card front. A few last tap, tap, taps there, and then we will go ahead and place this down as well. Lining up my side and the bottom. I'm going to make sure all that's down nice and tight and my edges are nice and even. Glue everywhere for this. I think the next time, it's not difficult to get it off my craft mat, but I think the next time maybe some scrap paper underneath would be helpful. I'm just going to get all that excess glue away from there so it doesn't get on my trimmer and it doesn't accidentally glue my card shut. And then of course we will cut off that excess. All right, so now we're going to come back and we're going to fix our missing pieces here. So what I've done is I've just grabbed one of my leaves, lined it up here with the one that's glued down. I'm going to just trim that single section of that leaf off and line it up. And we're just going to glue the pieces in that we are missing. So I'm only adding glue to those little details that were cut off. Just double and triple checking to make sure the piece that I need is what's there. And then we'll press that into place. Then I started here to go in and trim this, and then I thought, no, this is going to be much, much easier if I just let this dry again and then come back and trim those pieces off. So we need one more leaf to fill in this bottom corner here. Again, I'm just going to trim out just that single leaf. And we will line it up, add our glue. It's funny how the pieces that are missing are really, really tiny little pieces, but it makes it look like such a huge white gaping hole when it is gone. So we're going to just let that sit for a few minutes. And once it's dry, then we will go ahead and trim off the excess. You can't see it there by the magic of editing, but I did let that sit for probably 5-10 minutes. All right, one is completed. Very carefully checking to make sure everything is in its proper place. And there we go. We were able to complete our pattern. Now along that top portion there, you can see there's just a little bit missing at the top left. It was so small to be able to add it on, I decided I would just live with it, just having that little tiny bit of extra white there. I'm going to give you a look at all 6 of the finished cards. I did open the first one there just to let you know. I, as usual, went ahead and added my paper on the inside just for that nice smooth writing area. And I'm so happy with how these turned out. All right, now for those of you who hung around to the end, I've got 3 more cards to share with you. As you know, I love a white, simple card base that just lets this die cut, speak for itself. So I'm going to create some very sweet and simple, just white cards with one of each of our veggies on it. We're going to do the carrot first here. Of course, I've added my art glitter glue to the back. I did think about popping these up, but because the leaves were so delicate, I thought, nope, we're just going to go with a flat card. It's enough. Making sure that's down nice and tight, and I've got all my little fronds of my leaf there. And then we'll go ahead and grab our onion. And again, with the little roots there at the bottom, I didn't want those to catch on an envelope or while it's in the mail. So we're just going to put this directly right onto our card base. I'm doing my best to center this. And then lastly, I've grabbed one of my radish. And we'll pop that down in the center as well. So really sweet, really simple, but I think this would make such a cute little gift set to give to the gardener in your life. Just for, a quick little note they might want to send someone, something that's more personalized for something that they love. You're going to open it and know that it came from them. Of course, we'll finish off the inside as usual. I've got my Nina 24-pound paper, just a little strip of that ATG, and we'll place one of those on the inside of all 3 of these cards. And those will complete our cards for today. Here are a few close-ups of the finished cards. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I've used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.